Good evening. Before I start today's video, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas to all of you in Haiti, in the United States, in Europe, in Africa. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. In today's video, we're going to analyze, we're going to explore, we're going to assess profoundly Deuteronomy 28, the verses 15 through 68, the portion of the text that talk about the curses that the children of Israel are supposed to be subjective to. We will see together that all of the curses in Deuteronomy 28 do not occur to the same generation in the same era. We will see that the curses do not occur in the same century. They do not even occur in the same millennium. We will also see that Jesus himself mentioned part of the curses to the disciple, and two of them were victim of a portion of the curse when the time came. Okay, we will see all of this. Now, the curses in Deuteronomy 28 are divided into 6 different eras. We're not going to spend time in the first 2 group set of curses. We're going to start with the third and then go from there. Now, the third, the first 2 of the curses, for instance, the first group, we find those in Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 to 29 and 58 through 63. Those curses took place when Israel was still a young country during the era of the judges before the country split into 2. And also the second group of curses are in Deuteronomy 28, 30 to 42. This is when Israel was under the occupation and deportation by the Assyrian, the Babylonian, and the Romans. Now, the third set of curses, where we're going to start reading, this is when the Roman Empire besieged Judah and Jerusalem, and we're going to see what took place inside, because the siege lasted 5 months. To be specific, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days that the siege lasted. So we are going to see, for instance, in verse, I believe, 52, there we read, "They will lay siege." This is Moses telling the people right before they entered the promised land. "They will lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you." And during the siege, the Bible says, the text says that people were going to live in what you call cannibalism, which means people would be eating each other because of the famine that would have taken place at that time. So let's read in verse 53. It says, "Because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord your God has given you." Now let's see, verse 56 says, "The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own son and daughter. The afterbirth from her womb and the children she bears. For in her dire need she intends to eat them secretly because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities." So, what does that mean? The text explains that during the siege, during the famine due to the siege, when women give birth to a new baby, not only they eat the baby, they cook the baby and eat the child themselves, they also cook and eat all the afterbirth. What's the afterbirth? That's all of the organs and tissues that come out after a child is born. The umbilical cord, the amniotic sac, the placenta. The placenta is the organ that provide nutrients and oxygen to the baby. After the baby is born, all of these things come out. Because of the siege, because there's no importation, no exportation, nobody go in, nobody go out, not enough food, no food at all. So people eat their children. That's what this is showing you. The women who give birth, women who give birth, eat the child and all the tissues that follow through. Now, let's see what the woman says took place during the siege. We just saw what God told Moses to tell the people that was going to happen to them if they reject God. Now let's see on a Roman Empire's perspective, what do they say happened? We have an historic text. There we read, in April 70 CE, 3 days before Passover, the Roman army started besieging Jerusalem. The city had been taken over by several rebel factions following a period of massive unrest and the collapse of a short-lived provisional government. Within 3 weeks, the Roman army broke the first 2 walls of the city, but a stubborn rebel standoff prevented them from penetrating the thickest and 3rd wall. And it says the city was ravaged by murder, famine, and cannibalism. Exactly what we just read in Deuteronomy 28, 49 through verses 49 through 57. Right? 49 to 57. Cannibalism took place, anarchy took place in there. And the text continues to say, Roman forces overwhelmed the defenders and set fire to the temple. Resistance continued for another month, but eventually the upper and lower parts of the city were taken as well, and the city was burned to the ground. What city is that? Jerusalem was burned to the ground. And the text says the victory, a triumph was held in Rome to celebrate the conquest of Jerusalem, and 2 triumphal arches were built to commemorate it. The treasures looted from the temple were put on display. So not only they burned down the temple, not only they burned down Jerusalem, they all of the treasures that they stole from the temple, they put them out on the street so that people could see, the Roman citizens could see what great victory that they have won over the people of Judah. And they will also report that there were three different groups that were part of the war. They say the Roman Empire, the Judea government, and they separate the Christians as the third group in the conflict. And they say about the leaders of each group, the army general for the Roman Empire was Titus, and his assistant, second leader, was Julius Alexander. They say the Judea government was headed by Simon Bar Jayora. Next to his name, they put a skull, which means he was executed at the end of the conflict. And for the leader of the Christians, they say John of Giscala. And next to John's name, they put P-O-W, which means that John is the Apostle John. And they're telling us that the Romans took him as a prisoner of war. And they said the number of people involved for each group. The Roman Empire sent 70,000 soldiers. Meanwhile, there were only 25 to 30,000 villagers, include government officers living in Judea. And among those 25 to 30,000, 10,000 of them were Christians. And they said on the casualties and losses, they put under the Roman Empire unknown. They don't give the number of casualties and losses for the Roman Empire. For the Judea government, they say the losses, casualties and losses, 15 to 20,000. And that's the number they started with. Everybody either dead or captured. And for the Christians, they show that 1/3 of the population were Christians, 10,000, under casualties and losses, 10,000. Everybody in Judea either dead or took into as prisoners or deported. Now, this happened to the generation that crucified Jesus, the generation that says, let his blood fall on us and on our children, the generation that chose Barabbas over Jesus, and the generation that said to Pilate, we don't have any other king but Caesar. We don't need Jesus as king. Caesar is our king. And this is what happened to them. Now let's see that Jesus lightly bring that subject up with the disciples. In Mark 13, we read, as Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings." And verse 2 says, "Do you see all these great buildings?" replied Jesus. "Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." And verse 3 shows us who was with Jesus. Who was Jesus talking to? Who witnessed and heard what he said. Verse 3 said, Peter, James, John, and Andrew were with Jesus. The very same John that the Roman Empire took as P-O-W. 4 years prior, in year 64, the Roman Empire under Nero had Peter assassinated because Peter was the leader of the church, and John replaced Peter. There you have it, 2 of the 12 disciples victimized by the curse that Moses expressed right before the children of Israel entered the promised land. Now, you will see that today people tell you, we don't, doesn't matter if we, if we are descendants of Abraham, it doesn't matter if we are Israelites, all you need is Jesus. As long as you have Jesus, you find. True, everybody needs Jesus. Everybody, if you don't receive Jesus in this era, you're in trouble. However, look at Jesus standing with the disciple, did not tell them, okay guys, now that you are Christians, you are converted into Christianity, now that I was born and raised in Israel and died for the sin of the people, don't worry about the curses in Deuteronomy 28 anymore. In fact, Jesus warned them, the curse is coming. Look at this temple, it's going to be destroyed. Jesus did not say, oh, forget about it, now we're all fine. No, while the church take care of its business, the nation of Israel, history, stories continue. Just like the Apostle Paul said, God is not done with Israel. And we can see clearly that God is not done with Israel. The curse of Deuteronomy 28 continues, and I'm going to show you how it reaches our generations. It reaches the generation of the descendants of the slaves living in this year 2023 and counting. Now the fourth set of curses that we see, we find them in verses 48 and verse 64. This is the beginning of the trade, of the slave trade. This is talking about the slave trade. Verse 48. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty. That's exactly what slaves go through. Sometimes when we see nakedness, we think that people have like a few sets of clothes. The slaves were completely naked, most of the time with apron around their private part, protecting the private part. Otherwise, they just no shirt, no pants. Okay. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness, and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck. Okay? He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. Verse 64 said, then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end of the earth to another. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. Now, let anybody tell me when was in any time in history that any nation put iron yoke on the neck of Ashkenazic Jews. Tell me in any time of the history of the world when Ashkenazic Jews serve gods of wood and stone. However, I will tell you when the nations in the Caribbean, including Haiti, and the African Americans living in the United States, I will tell you when iron yoke was on their neck, and I will tell you, if you look at them today in the Caribbean, most of Caribbean citizens are Catholic. What God do they serve in the Catholic religion? God of wood and stone statues made of wood and stone, idols made of make of wood and stone. And God said that's what would have happened to Israel, leaving Israel at a certain point. That's what they would be serving, worshiping as God in the nations where they take us. And uh, um, um, in Psalm, it says, God says, those things, they have eyes that they cannot see. They have mouth, they cannot speak. They have feet, they cannot walk. And they look like the person who make them. They were built by Italians. They look white like Italians. That's why we have an olive oil Jesus made from there, because God already said whoever make those statues will make them look like their own people. Okay, and that's exactly what happened. Now let's look at the fifth era of curses that happened to the children of Israel. And of the chapter 28, verses 65 and 67 describe the brutality, the voracity, and the cruelty of slavery. 65 says, "Among those nations you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. You will live in constant suspense, filled with dread both night and day." We are describing the life of a slave, never sure of your life. In the morning you will say, "If only it were evening," and in the evening, "If only it were morning," because of the terror that will fill your heart and the sight that your eyes will see. This is describing the life of a slave. And this is very painful, very disturbing. And when they transport a slave from Africa and brought them to the Caribbean or to the United States, that slave's life expectancy reduced to 7 years. So during those 7 years, this is how they live, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, and with a despairing heart, with a heart filled with dread, both night and day, never sure of their lives, and so on and so forth. That describes the life of a slave, and we know exactly which people that this thing happened to, the descendants of Abraham. That's exactly what it described in Deuteronomy. Now, the sixth era of curses is simply the 68th verse of Deuteronomy 28, and that affects our generation today in 2023 and counting. Let's read what it says. "The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you." Now the word Egypt here, the Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt. This is not talking about the nation called Egypt today. This is expressing what Egypt meant to the nation of Israel antique. Egypt meant to Israel a place of safety, a place of opportunity and hope. Exactly what the United States and Canada and France means to Haitian people today. A place of safety, opportunity, and hope. And also England, Germany, Italy, and France means the same thing. Mean the same thing to young Africans who take boat, who take ships, okay, to go to Europe looking for a better life, looking for safety, opportunity, and hope. Okay, God said He's and this time He Himself making things hard, sending us to those places in this way, in this style of traveling. And then verse 68 continues to say, there you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. What does that mean? If you remember in September 2021, under one of the bridge of Texas, there were 15,000 people under the bridge, and they say 12,000 of them were Haitians. Now, if those Haitians said to the government, don't send us back, just give us food, give us a place to stay, and we'll work for you as slave, the answer would have been, no, we can't do that because slavery is illegal in the United States. And France would say the same thing, Canada would say the same thing, England would say the same thing, Germany would say the same thing, Italy would say the same thing. Throughout the world, slavery is illegal today. Now, the Europe spent a bundle to go get the slaves that they used to get from Africa, and that's why they call the process a triangle. The boat start in Europe. They fill the boat with European products and especially weapon. Almost half of the boat filled with weapon, and they took all of that to the empire, to the Dahomey Empire, the country that is called Benin today. When the boat got to Dahomey, they emptied the boat, and then the citizens of Africa who were living peacefully, smiley people, kind people, decent people, that they kidnapped, they filled them, pushed them in the boat, put them in the boat, and then they drove them to the Caribbean, to Haiti, for instance. And when they get to Haiti, they empty the boat, they take the African citizens out and send them to work hard labor. And then they fill the boat with Haitian products. Products such as coffee, cocoa to make chocolate, cotton to make clothes and coat, sugar cane to make sugar, tea leaves to make tea, spices in great quantity, and so on, so forth. And in that boat, they take the boat back to Europe, especially France. That's who owned Haiti at the end. At first it was Spain, and then at the end it was France. Took the boat to France, and then they do the process for 400-500 years. So when they hurled a cup of coffee, drinking it, they don't realize that they were drinking the blood of the slaves. When they were drinking chocolate, in fancy cups, they don't realize that they're drinking the blood of the slaves. They don't realize that people are going through hell to get these things ready for them. When they wear the fancy coat in the high class society, they don't realize that they were wearing the skin of the slaves. It's a human being that they reduced to less than animal that put these things together that they only have 7 years to live in dire poverty, in humiliation, in disgusting conditions. Okay, so now, as far as we concern, today, those you saw those boats that I show you, those people that I show you under the bridge, those boats of Africans trying to reach Europe. Today, we ourselves, we are the one bringing ourselves to them and offering ourselves, and then they're closing the border on us, saying thanks but no thanks. We don't need you. Ask Donald Trump. We don't need you here. And that's exactly what the text says in the part B of verse 68. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. Nowhere in the world today that slavery is legal. Nowhere. Every place will tell you, no thanks, but no thanks. We don't practice slavery anymore. And it's like the level of humiliation get worse and worse. And that's exactly what's happening to our generation today. Now, telling you all of this is in order for me to get to the climax of the video, the climax of the presentation. Now, verse 45a and 46, this is a secret message that God saved, that God secretly put away for our generations to know, to hear. God wants you to know, if you want to know if you really Israel, if the slaves really came from Israel before they were in Africa, verse 45a and 46 give you the answer. There we read in verse 45a of chapter of Deuteronomy 28, it says, all these curses will come on you. They will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever. What does that mean? When God met Moses for the first time, God told Moses, go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses said, who am I that I'm going to tell Pharaoh to let the people go? God said, go, I will do signs and wonders, which were the 10 plagues, and then he will let the people go. And then God says, go to the people, tell them, I send you, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses said, no, the people will not believe me. God said, what's in your hand, Moses? Moses said, a stick. God said, drop it on the ground. The stick turns into a snake. And God said, grab it by the tail. When Moses did, the snake turns into the stick that Moses held before. God said, put your hand inside your coat and then take it out. When Moses did, Moses' hand had leprosy. God said, put it back, take it out, and Moses' hand was cured. God said, take some water from the river, pour it on the ground. While Moses was pouring it on the ground, the water turned into blood. God said, go do these things and they'll believe you. Today, God said, if you don't believe that you are Israel, God said he will not send another Moses to do signs and wonders. God said the curses, the humiliations, the rejections at the border, the slave trade, the occupation by the women, the siege of the women, the cannibalism, and so on and so forth. God said this is the only signs he's giving us. For instance, God said slavery, the chain on the neck. God said that's the only signs we're having. That's the only sign He's giving us. The marquee of excuse me, the marquee of African Americans in the United States, Jim Crow era, Haitian trying to get a better life in the United States, police brutality, George Floyd, Haitian people under the bridge of Texas. God said those curses are the signs, the only signs He's giving this time. God says He's not giving any more signs. And when we ask why all this suffering, God already told Jeremiah in Jeremiah 5:19 to tell us why. God, there we read Jeremiah 5:19, and when the people ask, "Why has the Lord or our God done all this to us?" you will tell them, "As you have forsaken me and served foreign gods in your own land, so now you will serve foreigners in a land not your own." Meanwhile, in Deuteronomy 28:47, God gives the same answer. 47 we read, "Because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity." If you want to know whether you are Israel or not, God said the curses is your sign. The humiliations, the rejections at the border, the mockery all around the world, the double standard, the discrimination that we're always complaining about, the stop and frisk, the police brutality, the Black Lives Matter that we're crying, we shall overcome, I'm a man, no justice, no peace. God said these are the signs. That's the only signs He is giving. He gave the shepherd, He told the shepherd, this is how you're going to find, this is by what sign you will find Jesus. When the angel came and told the shepherd, you will find a child enrolled in a cloth and in a manger, because they don't put babies newborn in mangers. That's where they feed animals. That's the utensil, the bowl to put hay and grass for animals. God says to the shepherd, that's the sign. And I just show you that God gave Moses a sign. But for us today, God said no more Mr. Nice Guy because of the rejection. God said the only signs we are getting is all of what I just tell you and show you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters all over the world. We just show you who you are and who we are. And with the rejection, with the humiliation, that's how God says we will know who we are. Until we meet again, I want to once again wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year 2024. May the Lord richly bless you.